Welcome everybody, my name's David Wood, I chair London Futurists, and today we're going to be talking about the future of improving human performance, looking at some scenarios for what might be happening in the next few years on that count. And in this conversation, I'm very pleased to welcome Nick Powell, who is, amongst many things, a performance coach. So Nick, what do you mean by a performance coach, and why is that important?
So David, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and senior executives, and they're looking to get more out of the tank. They're looking to really improve their performance, not only from a work point of view, but also from a personal point of view. I think we're under so much stress these days, and lives are so busy. If they can optimize themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally, it puts them in the best possible place to look after the business, their career, their family, and their health.
Becoming better versions of themselves for their work and for their family and for everything else.
The term, being your best self, I think is quite an overused term in many ways. And I think that, do we ever really become our best selves? I look upon it as a journey, and it's a journey that never stops. So if we can start to optimize certain things in our lives and incrementally improve, I think that's where you start to make the largest gains.
One thing I was particularly interested in when I found out about you is you describe yourself not just as a performance coach, but also a biohacker. So what do you mean by that term, biohacking?
So when I mention the word biohacking to people for the first time, sometimes they think I'm some kind of biological terrorist or something, because it just sounds like a crazy term. It's a term that's basically coined in California by a guy called Dave Asprey. And for many people, he's viewed as the grandfather of biohacking. And for me, what biohacking is using the intersection between biology, technology, and the environment around you to massively increase your energy levels, boost your cognition, optimize your sleep, and actually become physically, mentally, and emotionally much stronger.
So can you give some examples on how might this work?
So some of my favorite ones is to hack my sleep. So I'm a big believer that, your sleep is a cornerstone of your performance. So I track my sleep every single night using something called the Oura Ring, which is here on my finger. This gives me precise data around my deep sleep, my dream sleep, my light sleep when I'm awake, so I can really not optimize the quantity of my sleep, but start to optimize the quality. So one of the problems I had, David, is that I was having very poor deep sleep, and deep sleep is the rejuvenating sleep that you get where your body repairs itself. And I was having 20 minutes a night, and it probably took me 4 months to work out what was impacting my deep sleep. And it was the fact that I've got LED lights all over my house. And the LED lights give off blue light, which is basically sending a signal to my body that it's midday and not 10 o'clock at night. So my body wasn't producing melatonin. When I started dimming the lights at night, my deep sleep went from 20 minutes to 90 minutes, which is a massive jump. So that's sort of one example of how you can hack your environment to give you a biological benefit that means your energy levels are then far higher.
Can you see actually in your daily life that this has had a difference, rather than just on the statistics you've got more time spent in deep sleep?
I definitely wake up feeling like I've had good quality sleep. And I've also been able to cut my sleep back from 7.5 hours a night back to 6, because I don't need as much sleep, because I'm getting good quality sleep. So, an extra 1.5 hours a day, that's a lot of time that you can do some real good with. Some other things, I've probably got 100 biohacks that I use on a daily basis, David, that range from taking smart drugs to boost my cognition, through to using infrared light to speed up recovery, to using vibration plates to sort of cheat my way to 10,000 steps every day. I'm I'm a big fan of things like drinking a bulletproof coffee, which is coffee with butter and MCT oil, and that really helps me in the morning sort of wake up and boost my cognition with the exogenous ketones. So there's lots of different things I'm really excited to be telling the audience about, and they'll definitely walk away with some very tangible things they can start implementing tomorrow that don't cost a huge amount of money.
You mentioned this vibration plate. I haven't heard about that before. It sounds like a bit of a cheat. Does it really give you goodness if you don't walk 10,000 steps, but you stand on a vibration plate? And
well, I'm a big fan of moving, and I tend to make sure that I'm moving around about 13,000 steps every day, because the Oura Ring also tracks my activity. But I use the vibration plate on those days where I can't quite get as much activity in. And one of the benefits of walking is that it moves your lymph system around your body. And by going on a vibration plate, it also starts to move your lymph system. And think of the lymph system as the sewage system in your body. So it's actively moving the toxins around. Also, you'll find with a vibration plate it really helps to improve your core strength. So if you do exercises like yoga or press ups or the plank on a vibration plate, it really helps build the core muscles and a lot faster. It was discovered by the Russian space program in the 60s, and they were using vibration plates on the shuttles for the Russian astronauts because they couldn't move as much because they were in a confined space. So lots of these biohacks tend to emerge either from space programs or from special forces or from elite sports. And my aim is to take these and move them into the corporate world so that entrepreneurs, senior executives, busy professionals get the benefit of these technologies, but in a corporate environment.
Would the same methods benefit people who are not corporates, but who've got some mission they're trying to follow, some non-government work or some activism?
Anybody that's looking to increase their own personal performance in any area of their life, you'll absolutely benefit them.
You mentioned nootropics, smart drugs.
Yes.
Can you say a bit more about them? And is there anything substantive about them rather than just giving people a weird feeling for a while?
So I use a number of smart drugs, and I use them for very specific purposes. Okay, I think of them as tools. I don't think of them as being something I would take every single day. I think when people hear the word drugs, they think, oh, this is dodgy, it's illegal. But actually, there are a lot of smart drugs out there that are perfectly legal. Two of the oldest smart drugs are nicotine and coffee. Well, nicotine and caffeine. But now you've got a whole range of supplements and nootropics and smart drugs out there that can give you a real boost in cognition and focus that lasts for hours and hours, and also can really boost your energy levels in not a sort of caffeine ampy kind of way, but give you sort of a very slow, calm burst of energy that makes you feel you're back online and you're normal once again. So I mean, I think the other point to note too, David, is that what will work for you won't work for me, because we're all biologically very different. I know people who've taken certain smart drugs and have had a massive effect. I know others have taken exactly the same smart drug and had no effect, because we're all biologically and genetically different, and we will respond differently to different things.
So if people were interested in this, I mean, how could they find out more? Because I look online occasionally, there's so much apparently conflicting information about these drugs, conflicting information about legality, safety.
Mm-hmm.
as well as efficacy and side effects. And as you pointed out, it depends on each of us, our metabolism, possibly our psychology, possibly other things in the environment may interact. How can we get reliable information about this?
I think you've got to do your own research. There's no substitute for you being really clear on the smart drug you're taking, the potential upside, the potential downside, and also where you can source it from legally. Those four things are really, really important. I think what you have to do also is you have to just start slowly. And maybe if you were going to try a smart drug, maybe try half a dose or a quarter of a dose and then build it up slowly. I think that is probably the best approach. I mean, I do talk about smart drugs in my book Limitless, and I do recommend a few smart drugs in the book. But I think it's really important that you do start slowly. I would never ever advocate anything that doesn't have a very strong safety profile. I think that is the most important part. You know, as I was saying, with nicotine and caffeine, those are the two older smart drugs. Those will have different effects on different people, and I use both. But I use both in different ways. I have a bulletproof coffee here, which gives me a slow release. But I also use a nicotine spray, which really helps with focus. So, you know, those two things work for me amongst other things. But I think as an individual, you have to work out what works for you.
And talk about the emotional side of some of the limits or to people's performance, because I know you addressed that in the book, the emotional resilience, emotional strength.
We're living in a world now where there's just so much stress, and people don't realize how much stress they're actually under now. And quite often they realize it when it's too late and they're in front of their GP because they're feeling anxious or they have depression. I think there are things that we can be doing as individuals every day that make us, you know, emotionally stronger. I think one of those things is meditation. I'm a huge fan of meditation. Just taking 5, 10, 15 minutes every day to be with your brain and allow it just to be quieter or just process the thoughts is extremely powerful. Science has proven now that if you meditate for 20 minutes every day, within 8 weeks, the shape of your brain changes. Your prefrontal cortex gets larger. And one of the most powerful things that I've ever come across, David, is something called heart rate variability training. So what heart rate variability is, it's the distance between your heartbeats. So if you have a high heart rate variability, that means that your nervous system is in balance and that you're in a non-stress state. If you have low heart rate variability, it means that your heart's beating on a very regular basis. The distance between your heartbeats is almost the same, and you've activated your freeze, fight, or flight response. And by using a device called Inner Balance from HeartMath, you can measure your heart rate variability and train yourself to increase your heart rate variability. So you're taking yourself out of that freeze, fight, or flight response. And for me, it's probably been the biggest thing that's really given me the most emotional strength, because I know when I'm being triggered by something now, because I can feel it in my body. I know how to take myself out of that stress state.
So you're talking about various gadgets or feedback mechanisms. You've got the ring, the Oura Ring. You mentioned this mechanism to monitor heart rate variability. Do you think this is something people are going to be using more of, this kind of thing, in the future?
I think the intersection of biology and technology and using biofeedback to really understand what's going on with you biologically, mentally, is going to be an area of huge growth. I think the whole quantified self movement is only just now getting off the ground, and there are lots of other things that you can be measuring from. You can do quite detailed analysis of your blood now to really work out what's going on biologically. You can have your DNA sequenced. You can have your gut microbiome tested by a service called Biome in the States, and that tells you exactly what is going on in your gut, how healthy your gut is, because now science has proven that all chronic disease starts in the gut. So when you start combining blood, gut microbiome, sleep data, data on your heart, and you have this big pool of data, I think in the future, we're going to be able to use that combined with artificial intelligence to really be able to work out, how healthy you are, how well you're really performing, and it'll be a very strong predictor of how you will perform in the future. Then I think if you can then start optimizing all of those key biomarkers, you end up in a really strong position where not only will you be performing a lot better, but the chances are you probably live a lot longer too.
Let's look ahead a bit. What kind of surprises do you half expect might come along? So then maybe if we had this conversation in 10 years' time, we'd look back and say, I wish I'd paid more attention to this. I should have seen this coming. Either a good surprise in the field of human performance or a bad surprise in terms of how this whole field evolves.
I think what is definitely coming down the track around human performance is stem cell therapy. So, taking our own stem cells from our fat stores or our bone marrow and able to rejuvenate parts of our body that may be failing. I think that's a huge thing that's coming. It's actually cheaper now in the States to have stem cell therapy on your knee rather than have a knee replacement. The other one is CRISPR technology, which is basically gene editing. That is going to have the ability to be able to edit our genes so that we're not exposed to certain genetic conditions in the future. Now, there is a lot of controversy around this because it could be used to then start creating superhumans. Now, I think the downside around human performance is that if we all start living longer, okay, then what do we do with the population? How do we feed 8 billion people now, never mind 10 billion people and 12 billion people? And is nature then going to create some kind of horrific virus that's going to wipe out half the human race? Now, who knows? But I think for me personally, I want to live as long as I possibly can. And if that's to 150 or 200, then I'm going to do everything I possibly can to try and live as long as I can. I love, this is a quote by a guy called Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan says that you always want your future to be bigger than your past. And if I can have a future that's always bigger than my past, then I want to live as long as I can because there's always something exciting and something to look forward to. Whereas if I'm thinking, well, I'm going to retire when I'm 65, 70, and then I'll live my next 20, 30 years. For me personally, that doesn't feel very exciting. I have no ambition to ever retire because I always want my future to be bigger than my past. And I personally feel like when I retire, I'm then on the decline going down.
Well, so you see a lot in your future. If people are interested in some of the things we've been talking about, so of course, one thing they can do is come along to a London Futurist meeting where you'll be talking. Another thing, I guess, is they'll find more information about some of the things you've said in this book, Limitless. Where else can people find out about you, Nick?
They can find me on my website, which is www.strongerself.global. And then from there, they'll be able to find me on all the various social platforms that I'm on, like LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook.
Right. Well, I look forward to talking to you more. I look forward to hosting you at London Futurists in a few weekends' time. Is there anything else we should touch on? Anything that final message you'd like people to have in their minds?
I think what I'd like people to have in their minds is to come along and have an open mind, because some of the things that I'm going to talk about, you may well think Nick's crazy, but I promise you I'm not. A lot of what I talk about is backed up by good, solid science, and the things that aren't, I'm really clear on. So just come with an open mind, because I promise you will take away 2 or 3 things that will make an incredible difference to your performance.
Nick Powell, many thanks for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.